those houses are, it's a project which has not yet reached practical completion.
I get the feeling someone somewhere is not patient enough.
We are going to occupy those houses. Now, the government has two options here. It's either going to be a peaceful occupation or it's going to be forceful.
Why should I be concerned then? The police have many cases which they are investigating.
We have responded accordingly, and I don't know why the same newspaper, the Namibian, called me.
Government have availed 142 million for the Independence Stadium as well as other infrastructures that they want to develop.
Desert Radio 95.3, the bold voice.
Good day and welcome to the rerun on Desert Radio. This is where we rebroadcast important or just interesting conversations you might have missed. My name is Kudayatu Kashatenya. This week, the media have reported that the country is on the brink of a food shortage, especially cereals, maize and pearl millet. The Agriculture Minister Kale Schledwein is quoted as saying that food imports will have to cover for the shortfall. The minister said this at an annual ministerial planning workshop which is running until Friday. Namibia's neighbors are also limping from poor rainfall, and these are the same countries Namibia depends on for food supplements. After another dismal grain production at the end of June 2023, Namibia had to spend 142 million Namibian dollars to import cereal grain from Poland, the Namibia Statistics Agency said. In the second quarter of 2023, the country's grain production of maize, wheat and millet was so low, the country had to spend 299.2 million Namibian dollars on grain import, the NSA said in its quarterly report. The country could also produce 21,953 tons of cereal grain, with white maize dominating the production of controlled grain of 21,648 tons, followed by millet with 295 tons. Wheat recorded the lowest production of 10 tons. Now, with this situation, is Namibia's over-reliance on food imports becoming a ticking time bomb? Desert Radio spoke to agri-sector entrepreneur Dobson Kwala and the spokesperson of the Ministry of Agriculture, Jona Musheko, earlier this morning. Let's have a listen.
This is Desert Radio.
As I told you earlier, or as we asked earlier, the question is the danger of over-reliance on food imports becoming Namibia's ticking time bomb? As mentioned, we were supposed to be speaking to agri-sector entrepreneur Dobson Kwala, but it does seem that he is not, getting to the line. The spokesperson of the Agriculture Ministry, that's Jona Musheko, is in the studio this morning. Jona, to you, a very good morning.
Morning to you and the listeners, and thank you for having me.
Indeed, thank you so much for making some time for us this morning. Perhaps just to provide us some context right now, are we in trouble when it comes to food in the country? Is there a looming food shortage in the country?
Well, thank you. Let me give the context to say where do we usually get mainly our staple food, which is grains. We're looking at maize and pearl millet, that is mahangu as most people call it. I think if we look at the last season's rainfall, starting from last year in November, December there, it started a little bit earlier, but it started being a little bit sporadic in the sense that it would rain and give a time frame of maybe a week or 2 weeks without raining, and this affected the crop growing. As we speak, we are busy, the ministry is busy concluding and finalizing a report, crop assessment report, that is supposed to give us, the actual figures and how worse is the situation is, if it is worse. That report will obviously also give highlight to say which regions are we expecting better yield in as much as crop production is concerned. But by the preliminary result as highlighted by my minister on Monday during the opening ceremony of the annual work plan and review of the ministry here in Windhoek, he highlighted that the results are not looking so good because of the nature of what happened during the season. The harvest from the dry land program, dry land rain-fed crop production, they do not look so good because of obviously the rainfall that has been having very strange patterns. And obviously we know after all this, these are some of the impacts of climate change. And the other thing that he has said is also that the production at the commercial level, also grains, it does not look as good as it usually do. It has dropped. We're just waiting once that report is finalized to give us exact figures. But what he has highlighted is that the figures have really dropped at the commercial level. Remember, our national demand for grains per year usually in the range of 160 something thousand metric tons per year. Usually we would produce something in the range of 90 from one side and then 100 and something from the other side, or vice versa. But this year those figures they don't look promising.
No.
And what is also should be looked at is it's not just Namibia that is experiencing this. This type of rainfall has been experienced in our neighboring countries, as highlighted by the minister. But I also have a report here that is coming from our SADC monitoring teams that also speaks about how Angola is affected, how Botswana is affected, how DRC is affected, how Malawi is affected, Mozambique as well as Zambia and Zimbabwe, including South Africa. So this dry spell that we are experiencing in Namibia, it's also extended, or it has been felt in our neighboring countries, because usually we would experience this, but some of our neighboring countries would get better rainfall. But the records are saying that the report is saying that the report I'm quoting is a disaster and food security early warning system that is usually issued by the SADC, that is of last month. It's saying that this year these SADC countries have experienced the worst dry spell that they have not experienced in the past 40 years.
And before you continue, because I want you to just before we allow you to, these countries you're talking about, these neighboring countries, are the same countries that Namibia depends on for food supplements, isn't it?
Yeah, but not entirely. You know, when you are going through difficulties, usually you would look into your neighbors that, in terms of food, what can I import from you, because it's cheaper and affordable in most cases, if you don't have enough. But in this case, as highlighted by the minister on Monday, he said that it is possible that we might not even be able to get much of our import as we would ought to get from them. We may need to get import from outside SADC, and this is not just Namibia. It's all these countries ought to do the same. By the way, Malawi and Zambia have actually declared a state of a national disaster due to drought. That shows you how serious it is in this SADC country. So we need to see how we are going to navigate based on our crop assessment report that is going to be very soon issued by our executive director. We will know what actions to be taken, because that report comes with recommendations to the ministry, to the office of the Prime Minister. As we all know that the Prime Minister's office is the one that is very much responsible in as much as disaster risk management is concerned. But we are the key players, because when we talk about disasters such as drought, what is affected mostly is our people, is our clients, is our farmers, is our livestock. So we play such a big role in as much as disaster management is involved when it comes to the agriculture sector. And I think that's why also we are busy reviewing or finalizing the review of the disaster risk management and the strategy in the ministry, so that we can hand it over to the office of the Prime Minister to say, whenever we deal with disaster in the country, we must now be guided by this strategy. So that's the context of it, to say it's not an issue that is Namibia is going through alone, but we obviously have got alternatives on how we can better handle this and prepare ourselves in future for this.
And I want you to speak on those alternatives, because I'm just looking at stats here from the NSA. This was last year, the grain production at the end of June 2023 last year. Namibia had to spend around 142 million to import cereal grain from Poland, and then in the second quarter of 2023, the country's grain production of maize, wheat and millet was so low, the country had to spend around 300 million on grain import. This is according to the NSA's quarterly report. Do these interventions also look like we're going to spend this amount of money this year as well?
It could be high, and as I said, it will really be determined by the anticipated report. But what I can say is that and I think the minister also highlighted it in his statement on Monday, to say that we should be more prepared as a country in as much as preparing for this situation is concerned, in the sense that we have got green schemes. Remember, the green schemes were moved to the ministry in 2022, and since then we have been putting them under production. Mostly, at least half of them, we have been putting them under production. And last year we also we had production, but as we speak, that production, the number of hectares that we have put under production during this season are actually higher than what we had in production last year. That shows that if we keep getting better funding, because the green schemes have some of the initiatives in the ministry that are very cost intensive in as much as funding is concerned, and the nature of them is that you don't need funds to be somewhere very far where you have to wait for 3 weeks and 2 months. It's operations like you are running your own farm. When you have a tire puncture on the farm, you must replace it within a few days. So, and those are that's the cash flow that we need within the ministry, and also to be escalated to the farm management. But the minister indicated that we need to keep increasing the hectares that we are putting under on production on our green scheme, as we did this year. And the other thing is that we also need to do it very carefully, because remember, most of these green schemes, they are depending on our perennial rivers where they are placed. If you look at the Tunda, it's stepping from the Kunene through the canal. And if you look at the Zambezi one that we are busy working on, it's based on the Zambezi River. The four that are based in Kavango also, they are also based on the Kavango River. So we also need to do it in a sense that these rivers, these resources, the water resources, these are shared resources. If you look at the Orip, the one that is in the south, that is also based on the Orange River. So we also do it we have to do it in a way that we also incorporate a bit of technology, so that we can use the better irrigation systems that are also not consuming and costly when it comes to water, because these perennial rivers in the future may not be reliable, because we are sharing these rivers with our neighbors. If you look at the Orange River, we are sharing it with South Africa and Lesotho. And you look at the Kavango, so be the same. So we need to also find ways on how we can also utilize this water, but in a sustainable manner, and also making sure that we get the most yield in as much as production is concerned.
So in the interim, as we wait for more recommendations, more reports, there's that reliance, of course, on the green schemes that I'm sure is still not enough. But what else can the country fall back on if not imports?
There are very less options in as much as this is concerned, to say we need to rely much on our producers, local producers, the producers themselves, in the communal area, as well as the green schemes. And I think that is why we have interventions in the ministry that are looking at supporting communal farmers when it comes to production. You look at our dryland crop production program that is meant to subsidize farmers when it comes to cultivation or plowing the land or tilling the land. Subsidies on seeds, all these initiatives, the subsidies on tractor services. It's to make sure that the component, the percentage that is brought in by communal farmers, it must be high, so that we can top it up with commercial farmers. We also, and I think that's why there is this less intervention as much as income that is generated in agriculture activities. There isn't much of these things of taxing, because we want to encourage people to produce, whether it is food production through livestock farming, whether it is food production through crop production. What farmers get from their field, from their initiatives in farming, goes straight in their pocket, because there is a lot of cost involved in as much as they have to get back onto farming.
How proactive is the ministry in engaging farmers in particular, and I guess perhaps also your general stakeholders, in looking at climate smart methods to make the country, or to make the sector rather, a bit more resilient to the current conditions that we're facing?
Well, again, I'll anchor on the statement made by the minister. I think that's the safe way I can do that. To say that climate change and all these climatic conditions we are experiencing, it requires, or what happened is that the rainfall patterns became very less and also sporadic. That means they are scattered here and there. And what it requires is that what happens is that there is a shorter period to produce food. And what is needed is that first one, we need immediately available tractors and machineries in all the areas where we are producers, because we cannot afford to continue doing production traditional way because it is time consuming. But when we have machineries available, and I think that speaks to an initiative we have within the ministry where we have been so much focused on procuring new machineries. I think last year we have procured about 290 something new tractors that are distributed across the country. And the idea is to say producers must be able to have access to machineries as soon as the rain season starts. We don't want them to wait for 4 weeks. Apparently, the government tractor is coming, and even in as much as that is concerned, we as well have an initiative where we say, in areas where we don't have government tractors and we have private tractors that want to work with government, they must register with the ministry so that they can plow for the people and they can come and claim their money from government. Those are all initiatives to ensure that producers have access to machineries on time as soon as the rain drops on their farm. And the other thing is to say having machineries available on time and immediately is not enough. You need quality seeds that also give you yield within a very short period of time. We have got initiatives at our research stations where we work out quality seeds, foundation seeds that we distribute to farmers to say, these seeds, if you use them, if you remember, I think these names used to be common, Okashana number 1, Okashana number 2, and things like that. All these are initiatives to make sure that farmers have access to quality seeds within a short period of time, and that can also give us yield in as much as drought and climate change is concerned. 2-3 months into that rainfall season, you'll be able to get some. And I think that's what most of the farmers have used in the past rainy season. In as much as it was bad, there are still producers that manage to get something out of their field because they've used those seeds that we have been working on in the past. And the other thing is to say, it is not enough again to have quality seeds. We also have what we refer to as extension services. These are services that we offer in each constituency to say there are times that our farmers might not be well versed with how to do production. Perhaps they are new farmers. I mean, if you look at you and me, and I have a plot in Congo, and then I have to do my first time plowing there, I might need some guidance. So we have these services. We have officials that are qualified, people that we have distributed across all the 121 constituencies to say, be advisors to the farmers. Let the farmers have access to you any time of the day so that you'll be able to assist these farmers in terms of advisory, in terms of what type of... It could be that they have maybe things like pests on their farm. How do they control such pests? As we speak, we are busy battling with locust in the Zambezi region. All these things is because we are working together with farming community because we want them to also have that skills to control these pests, even in our absence as officials, and they can be able to obviously do first aid, help while our officials are coming. All these are services meant to say our farmers must be able to stand and produce in as much as climate conditions and harsh conditions are concerned.
We're speaking to the spokesperson of the Agriculture Minister, that's Jona Musheko, he's in the studio this morning, on, that reportedly looming food shortage that Namibia is about to experience, and we're just asking the questions on whether there's a danger of over-reliance on food imports and other measures becoming Namibia's ticking time bomb. But there's also an issue of water here, Jona, that we have to consider. Just in terms of the ministry's work, especially, I guess, when it comes to the small-scale farmers, what do those measures look like when we look at issues of boreholes, when we look at other sort of measures that farmers can rely on as we go through this period of scarce rain, drought generally? What's that situation looking like?
Yeah, in situations like this, the most important thing is obviously water, whether it is for human consumption or it is for our livestock. We can't do anything without water. And we have been very much engaged in as much as our water supply is concerned. I think so far the percentages that as highlighted by the minister on Monday is still in the 87, water coverage. Like 87% of our population has got access to water, and the rest of the 13, we still need to get to those areas so to make sure that we have got water supply. But in situations like this, where now we had very poor rainfall, we are forced to say we need to double up our effort. Yeah, we need to double up our effort in the sense that borehole drillings and water supply through tangers, all these initiatives are in place. And I think over the past 2-3 years or so, if you have been following the initiatives and how we've been announcing and how we've been launching and also opening up new water facilities, you could see that we were not just doing it for the sake of it. We have been preparing over years to say we must have our people having water readily available in all areas. I think I actually have a list of villages that we have recently drilled boreholes. I have a list of villages where we are putting up what we call mini desalination plants. These are machineries. These are machineries that we put up in a site where we have drilled the borehole, and we notice that the water is not suitable for consumption, and we don't just want to leave it like that. If it's salty or if it's brackish and stuff, we will put up a mini desalination plant where we say this is what we're going to put up this so that it can clean up the water and people can drink that. We have a list of villages that we have currently installed those machineries from Kunene. I think Sate has got some villages, Zambezi has got some villages, Hangwena has got some villages, and it's an initiative we were piloting together with one of our stakeholders, that is the Environmental Investment Fund, last year, and we just completed that piloting, and we noticed that it's actually a good initiative, and it was not it wasn't that we had a perception that just because it's a mini desalination plant, these initiatives were costly, but they are not so costly as we thought. So as we speak, we are busy mobilizing more funds so that we can do this at most of our sites where we have drilled boreholes and the water is not suitable, because we had quite a number of areas where we went to drill, the water is not suitable. But what we do is just we leave it and go on to the next one. So in this case, we are going to go back to some of those places, install mini desalination plants, and then make sure that the people have access to water. But we are obviously faced with the challenge of, I think, since this year and also last year, we have been fighting a challenge of some of our community members. We really have got bad elements of apples that are stealing these facilities that we are installing. We're talking about water pump, solar panels. So you leave that facility in the hands of the community, but eventually there are some elements that will come and destroy those facilities and steal the solar panels to go and listen to radio or go and listen or watch TV and things like that, which is really taking us back. I think last month in Angwena we lost more. We lost about 20. We lost about 20 water pumps.
That's
and
a lot.
Those are not good statistics.
Not at all. And I want to bring in Dobson Kwala here, who joins us on the line this morning. We've heard from the Ministry of Agriculture, and man, have they been busy. I'm sure if you've seen on social media as well, they've been quite busy. But now to just hear from somebody who's on the ground, agri sector in entrepreneur, that's Dobson Kwala, joins us on the line this morning. Dobson, to you, a very good morning. And look, we're getting those reports that there's a possible food shortage that we might be facing. The climate doesn't look that good just in terms of rainfall. Numbers might go higher in terms of statistics that is being spent when it comes to money, or when it comes to food rather, being imported as well. But for you on the ground, how's the situation looking like for you in this particular context?
Thank you so much. I think the main focus, in our country at this stage, what we should take into consideration is the climate change, and we should adapt. So the whole issue is that in the midst of agriculture, we have the biggest challenge in terms of water scarcity. Like the gentleman have just explained, the Namibian government is trying by all means to make sure that they deliver. But the element that you have just mentioned of people that are breaking down infrastructure, they're the ones that are letting things, to go a bit down, because you buy $1 million of material and you set up equipment and infrastructures in the outskirts to help the community. But by the end of time, then you find like, okay, these burglaries, they break through farms, through government structures and still. But anyway, that is another way to say like, okay, do we have security, in place to keep those properties safe? Because we should mention the weakness, knowing that there's an alternative that one should be responsible to. Humans are the ones that are giving functions above all to keep security, of their properties. Now, there's no way that anyone can break into a facility or a property, be it government or private property, without, obstructing the security that is there. So this is one of the lessons that we should just have at hand. Namibia is an arid country. In agriculture, we face a biggest challenge in water scarcity, and it's a very known, fact. And it's because every time that you have the warm, climate, the water levels are, below the ground. They also subsides. The perennial rivers or non-perennial rivers also loses a certain number of water, and the reservoirs like dams, natural dams, they also have an effect. Now, this water is the one that we use for different purposes. But in agriculture, the main purpose is to grow crops and, cooling, for cooling purposes. But the most important thing is to grow those crops. Now, so what is happening is that given the situation of our country, Namibia, I think we have taken, focus in a different vein, because if you look at the previous drought that we had, that was the first alarm, to trigger us, to find a solution to food availability. Even if every farmer doesn't have equipment or everything, but the green schemes that are in Namibia were supposed to be fully funded so that people can start working in those green schemes, so that food can come from those green schemes. Because giving the example of the downfall of Ukraine's grain production, the wheat and all those stuff, and maybe the unavailability of grains from Brazil or India, those are countries that are also having a similar government system like Namibia. They have ministries also. They have just prioritized to make sure that they have to do the production. So where are we? In Namibia, some few years ago, there was NAMSID, Namibia Seed Multiplication Division. They were saying they want to produce seeds. The example is the Okashana millet or mahango, because most of our mahango comes from India. Now they wanted to have the local, millets that are adaptive to Namibia's climate, so that during a certain time of the year in our country we are able to plant something that can adapt to the low rainfall that we have and the types of soil that we have, so that we can have the mahango and millet grains readily available. And it's one of the highly consumed, and it's very good for nutrition. So now what is happening is that where did we go wrong as a country? Because we were waiting for that initiative, and up to today the Department of NAMSIP in the Ministry of Agriculture still exists. And in Zimbabwe we have the similar seed multiplication program. They have maize. We normally import some maize from Zimbabwe. In South Africa there's the same method. So Namibia also doesn't differ from those countries because it has human resource, it has natural resource like land. We also have education system in place, and we have the rolling budgets. Now, when it comes to the finances, we cannot fail because we have finances that is the Ministry of Finance collects revenue from different and various revenue streams in Namibia on daily basis and even hourly basis. So there is no way that we can lose and say we can depend on Ukraine, because our money is here, is not yet depleted. We have to invest it in the right place. Then the other one is the issue of Namibia Statistics Agency. I'm having the report from Namibia Statistics Agency, and I was in the meeting from the final reports on how the economy is doing. The economy is fine, but there are certain sectors that are ahead of others. Number one is fishing, it's mining. Number two is fishing, plus other, logistics and education, sectors. But now we came to question like what's happening with agriculture. NSA said we only provide information based on what we have. But we say like, no, agriculture is one of the backbones. And we have a line ministry. How come we are failing to have any report on agriculture? You see, the report was very, very minimum, not even above 20% of what we expected, unlike the mining and other stuff. Then we gave an example and we said like, look, mining takes millions of dollars before you extract something or get products. But agriculture is few, thousands that you just implement, because we don't grow we don't manufacture land. Land is readily available, but when it comes to mining, we have to manufacture equipment that should be able to break the ground, that should be able to refine the minerals, that is able to help us do some lot of value addition to it. Indeed. But in agriculture, even with hands, we can just take a whole.
Dobson, I just quickly want to bring in Jona here, and this is as we start winding down our conversation, Jona and Dobson. Look, in terms of drought relief modalities, that's really a function of the Office of the Prime Minister. But I'm sure there must be consultation between your ministry and the Office of the Prime Minister. Farmers have been complaining as late as last year on the release of this or the pace of this process rather. What do those conversations look like between your ministry and the Office of the Prime Minister to make sure that this drought relief program and process is fastened to align to your strategies that you are putting in to assist the farmers as well? Jona, that's for you.
Okay. Well, in as much as the drought interventions are concerned, obviously last year we picked up some complaints from farmers that it started a little bit late, but it's something that the ministry and the Office of the Prime Minister has picked up to say that these initiatives should always be very much considerate of the fact that sometimes the effect of drought has started earlier, but I think that will be addressed this year. And I just wanted also to provide some feedback on my senior on the line to say, in as much as NANSIP is concerned, we have last year we have procured 298 tractors that are distributed across the country, obviously meant for farmers to be able to have access to these tractors, and this will supplement the already existing tractors that we've been having in the country. And the good part with these tractors is that they are distributed across all the 14 regions. What differs is the number and the demand in each region. We cannot allocate 15 tractors to Commerce because we know we don't have a lot of commercial farmers that in Commerce that do plowing and tilling of the lands. So Commerce has about 4 tractors that is usable by people, our fellows that are in areas such as Dodabis or Groto, because we know they have got gardens there. And the other thing is that on the production of quality seeds, we have produced about 38 tons. That is also that was part of the foundation's seeds that were later distributed, as well as 107 tons of certified seeds that were later distributed to farmers. Obviously, that is not sufficient because remember, with NAMSIP, we were working with farmers, also private farmers, to say in communal areas, to say if you have got your Mahango field that you want to utilize, so you can help government to grow these certified seeds, come to us. And we have gotten a number of farmers that came on board all the way from Zambezi until Umsati region that are working and are registered with the ministry to produce these certified seeds under monitoring, obviously. So I think with that's the context I needed to give there.
Indeed. And then Dobson, just before we do let you go as well, solutions to this issue that we're dealing with right now. I'll give you a minute.
All right, thank you so much. I think when it comes to climate change, the biggest issue here is not the availability of infrastructure or equipment that we have, because the drought that came to strike us, came to find us when we have, most of the stuff at our disposal. I'm a beneficiary of all the subsidized services from the Ministry of Agriculture. I'm one of the farmers that benefits from the plowing services. You see, they came to plow for me normally. I bought the right seeds, but the rain did not come. So that's not even our government's problem. That is not even the ministry's problem. It's nature. So now, then what do we do? So instead, government have more, facilities like the green schemes. That's where we are saying if we individual farmers fail, that's where government should propel the activities of, irrigation system. I was in Skondo yesterday. I was very impressed. There's a lot of maize there. So if it could be duplicated to all various, green schemes around the country and open other areas, what we need to do is to have a food reserve. Food reserve in a sense that we know where we can get in the time of calamities, like the way how we are into, because we don't have to look outside the world when we have our resources here, when we have our functioning governance system. So initially, it's not a long story. It's not about politics. It's just about the reality. So that's why I'm saying we work together with government. Ministry of Agriculture gave us their level best of services, but nature disappointed us.
All right.
So
Dobson,
the rain is just coming now.
Indeed.
So what are we going to do?
Dobson, thank you so much. Jona, I'll give you 30 seconds.
Thank you. I should really appreciate Dobson for giving us context from the farmers' perspective, so that we also are assisted in telling our story. I also just wanted to highlight that we really want to produce, but if you look at the budget allocation to the green scheme, last year it was 120 million. This year it has reduced to 54%. That is now just 65 million. We want to produce, but sometimes the budget does not allow. We keep pleading with Treasury, in as much as we know that it's also accommodating other crucial components of the government. We want to produce, but sometimes the financial muscles are limited. But we won't stop there. We won't be limited by the budget, as our minister have indicated, to say with the little that is allocated to us, it is up to us to prove that with less we can still do more. As we speak, the production at the green schemes has increased from last year. The number of hectares we have grown this year, this season has increased, and it's obviously because of these initiatives we have within the ministry. And I should also tell you that we have also revived the sunflower production at Shadikongoro as well as Sikondo. That is also to supplement other type of food production within the agriculture sector. And I think that with that I appreciate and thank you.
Indeed, Jona, we thank you so much for making some time for us. Dobson, equally to you.
Unfiltered.
Our own state has had great growth in policy and legal reform processes that has also brought the sodomy law under review within the LRDC, and also that this particular law has reached the parliament.
Current.
If you don't have competencies, the right ways of appointing all these people, except maybe for the minister who is a political appointee, but even then, the minister is not going to breathe down instructions that go contrary to the purpose of the enterprise.
Impactful.
That's the whole point of this discussion today, to see if the laws that have been created in this country are actually consistent and compatible with the language of the Constitution itself. And that is the